would you consider going to the pub while you were off sick as a sackable offence?
A judge has ruled that a driver was unfairly dismissed when he was spotted by his employer smoking and drinking at his social club, despite being off work with a health condition. So, can you go to the pub when you're sick? We asked what you thought.
If you're not well enough to go to it, you're not well enough to go out, basically, unless you're going to the doctors.
If it's something mental and you've been off for, say, you know, a couple of months with depression or something, part of getting better is going out and trying to socialise and have some fun.
Truly believe that if you're sick, you stay in, you get better.
So, if you're off sick from work, is it acceptable to go to the pub? Let's put it to Twitter. And 20% of you said, yeah, it's absolutely fine to go to the pub. 80% say, no, it's not. You're supposed to be in bed, sipping hot water, chicken soup, and getting better. Because otherwise, your boss might see you and you'd be in all sorts of trouble, wouldn't you, Ben?
And maybe it depends what sort of sickness you're off for. We're now joined by businessman Thomas Skinner, who says if you work your staff hard, morning, Thomas, let them have a sick day down the pub. And also barrister Jerry Hayes, who says this is bonkers. Good morning to you, Jerry, as well. Thomas, let's start with you, because you are in the minority. As Susanna said, yeah, our poll, 80% of our viewers say it's absolutely not OK to be off sick from work and going to the pub. Why do you think it is fine?
And I would have thought, sorry, I just would have thought as a boss you would have agreed with that, but you don't.
Well, in my opinion, is you can be sick for so many different reasons, you know? Like, I had it last week. I was on the van with one of my drivers, and I'm a very hands-on boss, yeah? And I've got 8 drivers, and we deliver mattresses. Now, one of my drivers jumped out of the van, he fell on his ankle, twisted his ankle, carried on the day like normal. In the morning, 5:30 in the morning, I'm on the way to the warehouse. He's run me up. He said, Tom, I can't come in today. I've got to have a day off sick. My ankle, I can't lift nothing up. I went, fair enough. Go down to A&E, have an X-ray done, let me know how you get on. Anyway, I was a bit upset because I had to work harder that day. But in the evening, about 6:30 when I was finishing, I rung him up and actually said, how'd you get on? He said, Tom, I went down and had an X-ray. It's not broken, but what they've said is you've got to rest it for 3 or 4 days. And we're doing that. I'm actually down the pub and, all right, lovely, I'll come and join you. So it depends what you're sick for. I mean, if someone lied to me, if someone stole from me, then obviously they'll be sacked straight away. But it depends why you're ill. And as well, you can wake up in the morning and feel terrible, and then in the evening feel fine. And it is so important. I mean, see my staff, they're like superheroes. I value them so much. And without my staff, I haven't got a business.
Okay.
And it's so hard to get good staff. Yeah. So you've got to look after them.
And I think you've got a lovely, generous, positive attitude.
He does. I want to go and work
staff.
Can I come and work with you, Thomas?
Of course you can. Come and get in the van,
Ben. Positive, generous attitude towards you.
Yeah, but Thomas is going to let me go down the pub and come and join me if I have myself.
Well, let me just... So, Thomas, let me put the circumstances in this case to you. This individual was suffering from a serious lung condition and told his bosses he spent the day in bed with his chest. Then he was seen out smoking and drinking. And because of his illness, he had been absent from work for periods of time. Now, if you had a member of staff... You described one scenario, but if you had a member of staff in that scenario, they've got a lung condition, they're off work for periods of time, then you see them smoking outside a pub, would that change your attitude?
I would have the ump with that 100%, yeah, because he's lied. If he's got a lung condition, he's not going to be smoking, and he's outside the pub smoking, then obviously, like, what are you doing? But it depends. I mean, you can like, walk, say for example, if you've got a chest condition and you've got a pub at the end of your road, and you've been in bed all day trying to get better, you can go for walks in the pub. I don't see no harm in that. I mean, if you're generally ill, you want your staff to be 100%. That's what I believe in, and you just got to look after them, you know?
Let's speak to Jerry then, because, Jerry, I think, clearly the judge found in favour of this being unfair dismissal and said that there was nothing in the employee's contract that said he couldn't go to the pub if he was off sick. I was looking at this going, isn't there a moral and ethical issue here that actually we all know whether we should be... if we're off ill, where we should be and whether we're ill enough or well enough to go to the pub. And that's the tricky part, that actually, if it's not in the contract, then they can't be dismissed for it.
But it's not going to be in the contract, is it? I mean, you're not going to have to say, oh, by the way, if you're sick, you can't fly off to Ibiza. If you're sick, you can't do. It's a matter of common sense. And the key in this particular case, and don't forget, it's only what we've read in the Daily Mail. It may not be completely accurate, but it does seem a rather bizarre decision, and it doesn't set a precedent. But it's all a matter of degree, and it's a matter of honesty and the work ethic. As your viewers said, if people are well enough to go to the pub, they should be well enough to work. But Tom raises a decent point as well. The trouble is, we've been through all this in this country in the 60s and 70s. We were the sick man of Europe because the attitude of the unions in those days was, well, it doesn't really matter if you don't come into work, and we'll strike if you're punished for it. British Rail used to be halted on a regular basis. Productivity in the car industry just disappeared. So really, it's the work ethic, it's honesty, which is so terribly important. We don't know.
Jerry, if you were an employer, how concerned would you be? Because we're about to start the Euros, which is a very popular pursuit for lots of people up and down the country. You can see Thomas is very excited. But I can remember going back to sort of Euro 96 and England's semi-final against Germany. And I remember Des Lynam saying, you know, this happening, say, everyone's grand's got to be ill one day, or the washing machine's got to break down, and encouraging people to take the day off work, pretend they were ill, so they could watch the game. And undoubtedly, that's going to be a situation, isn't it? How concerned would you be off the back of this ruling that employers will have all sorts of employees saying, I'm off sick and I'm off down the pub to watch the match?
Well, I think this is going to happen, and there'll be a lot of leeway and sympathy from the employers, but you book the time off. That's what you do. You book the time off, and if the employer says yes, there's no problem at all. Now, there's a picture behind me, and I'm leading dear old Rob Rinder in a murder. We won it. This is a long time ago. Now, if he and I pulled a sickie and the judge found us down at the pub, well, it wouldn't have gone down well. If you're a primary school teacher and you do the same thing, the class is going to have to be sent home. If you're a small business owner and you've been done over by the pandemic, it's just selfish and it's dishonest. And I think it's the dishonesty, and I think Tom and I are at one on this, which is really, really, really so.
Yeah. The judge in the case said that the employer had made a gross assumption without evidence that the claimant should not be at the social club because of the nature of his condition, and stated the disciplinary procedure didn't prohibit it. So is the answer then to put it into the disciplinary procedure? If you're off sick, you're not allowed to do X, Y and Z, including, as you say, Ibiza.
Okay, Tom, you can't do it, can you?
No, it's common sense. But I mean, I'm a great believer of, you got to look after your staff. You got to trust your staff. When staff start lying to you, then it's time for them to go. But you know, we can feel ill in the morning, feel better in the afternoon, and it's all about work. If you start being a horrible boss, they're not going to work for you as well. You know what I mean? So it's just keeping everyone happy. It's hard. Listen, I employ lots of people, and I'm sure on Monday morning, in fact, me being one of them, we'll be having a few beers on Sunday with the football. So it's going to be a later start. But we're all going to sort on a WhatsApp, go, guys, Monday morning, we'll start at 10:30, not at 5:30 in the morning. It's understandable.
Yeah.
Well, you sound like the best boss in Essex, that's for sure.
Nothing wrong with Essex. I'm in Essex.
I know. I'm just saying, Thomas, I'm from Essex. I'm saying he's the best boss in Essex.
We've got to leave it there. Jerry, Thomas, thanks very much indeed. I remember when Des Lynam was on that day and he looked straight down the barrel of the camera and raised an eyebrow and said, "Shouldn't you be at work?" Shamed an entire nation.